Good afternoon from Vienna, and a very warm welcome to today's 5th Music Export webinar from the Around the World series. My name is Reanne Leuning, and I work for Advantage Austria, which is the Austrian Foreign Trade Promotion and Innovation Organization based in Vienna. We have around 100 offices around the world that are there to support Austrian companies when it comes to exporting their products and services, and to connect them to international partners and counterparts. And within Advantage Austria, I am responsible for the creative industries, which means any creative field, including music, which is a very central part of the Austrian creative sector. And we organize a lot of events and information sessions. And for that, we always collaborate very closely with Franz Hergowitz and Tatjana Domani from Austrian Music Export. And I am also really happy that you are with us today. Before I hand on to Dan, let me tell you a little bit about what we can do for you being active in the music industry. Advantage Austria has been organizing Austrian group presentations at leading music fairs, such as Jazz Ahead and WOMEX, which is the World Music Expo, for many years already. And speaking about Jazz Ahead, the event just ended yesterday after four days of a lot of online networking and showcases. And we participated with 17 Austrian companies and artists. And I think we had a good time and a successful time, in spite of the fact that everything took place online. And we also put a strong focus on knowledge transfer, which means that we offer support when it comes to gaining information about other international music markets. And to facilitate this, we organize a lot of events. Right now, mainly webinars, but we hope to be able to organize real-life events again as soon as possible. We also offer a lot of individual support and consulting services through our head office in Vienna, but also through our international network of trade commissions, which ranges from questions about local law, visa, contracts, or taxes, to finding suitable partners, providing PR and marketing services, and organizing events to promote your products and services. We also have an extensive funding program called Go International, where Austrian companies can apply when they want to cover their market entry costs for new markets. And last but not least, we also support you when it comes to building up your professional community, also again through our network of international offices, and in today's case, especially through our office in Sao Paulo in Brazil. So before I move on to Tatjana and Franz, here are some practical announcements for today's webinar. First of all, the webinar will be recorded, and in about 1 week time, we will send you the YouTube link of the recording, as well as the presentations of the speakers, so that you can rewatch everything. And if you already have questions for our speakers during the webinar, you can ask them directly in the chat at any time. And the speakers will answer these questions in the subsequent discussion, which will be in about 40 to 50 minutes. And it would be helpful if you could also specify whom the question is for, as we have quite some speakers today. And if any questions come to mind after the webinar, you can always send us an email. So that was it from my side, and I would now like to hand over to Tatjana and Franz for an introduction from their side.
Yes, hello. Also a warm welcome from my side. As Reanne said, we are a service organization for the Austrian music scene. So we do support artists and companies like record labels, managers, promoters, booking agents, if they want to go abroad. For the last 10 years, we have mostly focused on regional development and worked with a lot of festivals in the European countries, for example, with Eurosonic Festival or Reeperbahn. And now, of course, for the last year, we were forced to stay at home and had to find new ways to connect with an international audience. And we decided on this format on a webinar series. This is actually the fifth, sorry. So we already visited South America. We went to Mexico first, and then to Africa and Asia, and now we're back. And we are very excited about Brazil. We tried to find countries that showed an especially digital growth in the last years, and Latin America came on top of the most exciting regions worldwide. So we decided it was worth taking a look what's going on in the local scene. And I'm very happy about our international speakers, and thank you for taking the time to share your knowledge with us and with the Austrian music industries. And I hope we can find one or more opportunities to connect in real life in Brazil as well soon. I'm not sure if we can hear Franz right now.
No, I can hear you again. I had some problems with my computer. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Fine, so it works. Sorry for that. So, hello everybody. Good afternoon. Good morning to Brazil. My name is Franz. I also work for Austrian Music Export. And usually the best part of my work is traveling, honestly. Meeting new people, seeing new bands and everything is really exciting. And honestly, I miss it a lot. But for a while, we were using all our energy in canceling events and reorganizing events. But then we decided, as Tatiana said, to become more proactive and also use the benefits of the complicated situation, because if no one travels, everybody sits at home in front of his computer like we do now, and it's much easier to get in touch with people from all over the world. So I think these travel restrictions can't prevent us from networking and getting in touch with new people, and also preparing for the time after, because I think the first key element when you want to enter new markets is to gain a lot of information, and that's exactly what we're doing here. So I'm really excited about this webinar about Brazil, a very interesting market, I guess. Maybe one thing I want to tell to our friends from Brazil, one of our key tasks as the export office is to provide information on Austrian music markets and the Austrian music field. So if you need any information, if you want to get in touch with any musician or music professional from Austria, please either visit musicexport.at, or even better, get in touch with Tatiana or me directly. So thanks a lot, Rian. I will give back the word to you now.
Thank you very much, Franz and Tatiana, for this introduction from your side. And as Tatiana has already mentioned, we are now about to revisit Latin America. We have started our Around the World series there with a webinar on Mexico. And now we are going to finish this first series of webinars with the webinar on Brazil. And I'm really happy that my colleague from our Sao Paulo office, Jakob Lassar, is here with us today as well. He is responsible for anything related to creative industries, but also tourism, communication, and many other topics. So he is also the right person to speak to when it comes to music in Sao Paulo in Brazil. And I would now like to give the floor to him, as he is going to give us an introduction on the Brazilian music market. Are you there? Yeah, you are there. Yes, hello, Jakob.
I am. Thank you very much, Rianne, for introducing me, and thank you very much, Tatiana and Franz, for organizing this webinar series. It's super interesting to participate in this, and a very good morning here from Brazil, and a good afternoon to everyone who's in Europe at the moment. So as Rihanna mentioned, my name is Jacob. I'm here at the AußenwirtschaftsCenter and Advantage Austria here in Sao Paulo. We are responsible for promoting Austrian businesses and Austrian enterprises here in the Brazilian market. Brazil, as you know, is an enormously big country and very interesting in terms of music, and which brings me to my next slide, actually, which is a map of Brazil. It's a bit small, maybe, definitely doesn't represent the actual size of the country, but anybody who has been to Brazil knows how enormous the proportions of the country are. And interestingly enough, if you look at the economic production of Brazil, I'm not going to go into too much into that subject, but most of that is centered around the area of the southwest, which is Sao Paulo, Rio, and the southern states. However, when it comes to music and especially culture, every single corner of the country has an enormously rich culture, enormously rich history, and a country that is definitely very much influenced by its immigration. And Brazil is one of the most multicultural countries in the world. Just so you know, I mean, we're talking about a country which has more than 210 million people living in it, so lots of people, definitely more than Austria. And it's the 9th largest economy in the world. For many people abroad do not realize that actually here people don't speak Spanish, they speak Portuguese. That's the national language. So when you want, and this is really important for you, if you want to do, if you want to bring artists to Brazil, or if you want to do business development in the area of music and creative industries, it's important that you realize that people really speak Portuguese. And it's I've known, I mean, I'm sure the other guest speakers today will agree, but in many cases people find it a bit offensive if you come and you speak Spanish, but actually it's Portuguese. Just I made a big point now about the language, but it is something that I noticed that a lot of Austrian businesses who come and assume that it's Spanish here. Brazil is an incredibly digital market. It doesn't matter if it's music or any other industry. It's the 4th largest smartphone market in the world. Business is done on WhatsApp, on different social media platforms. It's the 2nd largest Instagram market. Actually, the co-founder of Instagram was Brazilian. And so it's an incredibly digital society, which is also the reason why if you really want to work with Brazilians, you have to be present on the different channels and on the different platforms. And just one statistics to prove that is that more than 97% of internet users in Brazil use a mobile phone to access the internet. So it's extremely mobile, it's extremely digital, very digital, tech savvy society in general. And when we talk about the society as such, it's very interesting. It's extremely multicultural. You have a lot of different influences. You have the Italian influence, you have the Portuguese, the Spanish, you have a bit of French, you have in the south very strong German and Polish immigration influence. And in Brazil is also the largest Lebanese and Japanese diaspora, which is super interesting. When you come to Brazil, you can taste the food. And this is just for you to know about the society as such. And I think that's very interesting and important to know. It's also a very young population. So again, for the music industry, extremely interesting and exciting to work in a to work and to explore a country with such a young population, and especially music savvy population. I think that's extremely interesting. Okay, now these are faces that many of you might be aware of or know. Gilberto Gil, Gal Costa, Elis Regina, Caetano Veloso, and Vinicius de Moraes. These are the famous proponents of the old guard Brazilian music. It's bossa nova, it's samba, it's MPB, and a lot of this is beautiful, beautiful music. And for someone who comes from abroad, when I'm not Brazilian, but before I came to Brazil, this is sort of what I assumed Brazil would be, which is just these kind of musicians. But at the end of the day, Brazil is much more than that. Brazil has so many more genres and so many more exciting music. And if you look at Brazil now, actually there are lots of artists who represent Brazilian music nowadays. So these are big pop idols nowadays. You have Anitta, which is trying to explore the international markets at the moment as we speak. You have DJ Alok, which is one of the most famous DJs in the world, who has toured around the world as well. And then you have the other ones, Wesley Safadão, Luan Santana, and Marília Mendonça, which are famous sertanejo singers. And I'm sure our guest speakers today will go a bit more into this detail, but sertanejo is actually one of the most popular music genres in Brazil. And so when we talk about Brazil, it's not just samba and bossa nova. In fact, this is the other genres that we're going to mention are much more popular, much bigger here in Brazil than samba and bossa nova, the things that we foreigners associate Brazil with. And so this brings me a bit to the streaming market in Brazil. So because I mentioned Brazil is such an incredibly digital market, streaming is also very big and popular in Brazil. So Brazil is the 10th biggest music streaming market in the world, and not just the biggest economy in Latin America, it's also the biggest music streaming market in Latin America. And Spotify, like in many other countries, is the most popular music platform in Brazil. And more than 72% of Brazilians stream music on a daily basis. So it really is important to understand the importance of the digital platforms when working in the Brazilian market. So Brazilians really listen to over an hour on a regular basis on streaming platform to music. And in 2018, Teil, which is one of the big streaming platforms, they launched here in co-partnership with one of the biggest telecommunication firms in Brazil, Vivo, belongs to Telefónica from Spain. And this is important because they basically gave almost free access to Teil, and that obviously brought a huge increased the population of the streaming platform. It's as if in Austria, einem or Orange suddenly gives free streaming access to Spotify. So this is really important to understand that this is it's pushed also by the telecommunications industry in this case, for example, and again highlighting the fact that sertanejo has the top streamed songs on these platforms. So sertanejo is really one of the most popular genres that exist in Brazil. And quickly about the music market. So Brazilians tend to be more interested in the local music genres when they listen to music. Obviously, that's a generalization, but it tends to be the trend that Brazilians tend to like more local music genres. And it's also the 10th largest global music revenue market. So again, enormous music industry, but not every single genre. And I think that's important to realize. A few days ago, we got a message from an Austrian label who wanted to promote a new album from an artist that they work with in Brazil, and they wanted contacts from radio stations. And I wanted to take that example because I think that's a very, very interesting question we got asked. It turns out that, for example, just in the state of Sao Paulo, which is the most populous state in the country of Brazil, there are more than 700 radio stations. So when it comes to, for example, the radio market, there are thousands of radio stations in Brazil. It's not like when you go to Austria, because we're talking about Austria compared to Austria. Austria is not just a smaller country, but also the radio market is much smaller. It's very much focused on contemporary hit radio format stations. And here in Brazil, there are tons of different formats. You have a lot of gospel or religious evangelical stations. It's a very strong evangelical market, similar to the United States. There are lots of Catholic radio stations as well. So you have this religious part. Then you have pop, lots of different pop stations. Then you also have talk radio, but you don't really have, for example, indie. It's not really a thing here. You have sertanejo stations and samba and pagode. But I think I just wanted to mention and take that example to show that if you really want to work in Brazil and you really want to promote your artist and promote your music, you really have to think exactly what kind of market do you want to target? Do you want to target urban areas? Do you want to target countryside? It's a huge country. Where do you really want to go and promote your music? And is this really a market where your music has potential? This is important because for any Austrian listening, Seile und Speer, for example, which sing in Viennese, nobody will understand a single word what they're singing. So probably they're not going to have too much potential here in the Brazilian market. But someone who sings in English might be more suitable for Brazil. But I just wanted to give that example. So here, I thought this is going to be a shocker, so only you can decide if this is going to be a shocker, but I think this is interesting because I found this map online, and it shows all the different kinds of music genres and music styles and dance styles that exist in Brazil, and I'm sure they're even more than that. But this is just for you to see the incredible cultural diversity of Brazil. It's an incredibly diverse country, and you have the different regions of Brazil with different music styles, different dances, super interesting. And on the left side of your screen, you will see the most popular music genres. And Fabiana, our guest speaker, the next person to speak, will give you actually a short history of the different genres of music in Brazil, which is going to be very interesting. So I hope you listen to that. But here you can see, so actually the most popular genres, you have pop, obviously popular music, which the name already suggests. You have Brazilian pop, which is extremely popular. And then sertanejo, you have a big rock culture here. And then samba and pagode. Now, samba and pagode is not necessarily what we associate as Europeans as samba. It's a much more cheesy kind of music, and it's very Brazilian. And for anybody, it's a sort of what people here listen to often at a churrasco, at a barbecue. And then there's also quite a big electronic dance music scene in Brazil. And as I mentioned, a lot of religious music. So you will receive this presentation at the end in a week's time, and then you can actually go through all the different kinds of genres and see what is really popular in Brazil. And it's surprisingly for me, I remember when I first came to Brazil, that in fact I also thought it's samba and that's it, but samba bossa nova, but it's actually much, much more. Okay, now one example that I want to take is Concile. Concile is a record producer from Sao Paulo. And he basically managed to leverage the YouTube channel to be one of the most subscribed to YouTube channels in the world. He has over, I did the screenshot yesterday, he has over 64 million subscribers. So it's enormous, brings out funk music. Funk music, it's funny what I'm going to say, but it's almost like sex with clothes in many times, the dancing. And it's an extremely popular music genre here in Brazil. And he actually brings out the most popular and most famous funk songs in Brazil. And so he's a very good example of how someone in Brazil used the digital scene to leverage into becoming a very popular producer. So Concile is something interesting. Now this is, I think for me, very interesting because in Brazil, you have the second biggest Oktoberfest in the world. It's in Blumenau. It's a city in the south of the country, in the state of Santa Catarina, and it's the second biggest Oktoberfest. And the first Oktoberfest in Brazil ever is in a tiny town in the state of Santa Catarina as well, in a place called Itapiranga. And I'm not just saying that because my wife is from Itapiranga, but actually that's the absolute heart and the birthplace of Oktoberfests in Brazil. As I mentioned before, there's a very big German immigrant group in the south of the country. People, for example, in the town of Itapiranga still speak German, the old generation. It's a German that's very different from the one in Austria or in Germany. So it was very isolated historically. But what's interesting, so you have this group called Vox Club. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I think so. I never listened to it myself before. But Vox Club is a band from Bavaria, from Munich, and they come every year to Blumenau to perform at the Oktoberfest. So this is something, if for anybody who's listening to this webinar, if you work with Schlager music or with Andreas Cavalier type of performers, this might be something very interesting for you, because this Vox Club did a very interesting marketing. They go on the airplane, they fly from Munich to Brazil, and then they make flash mobs. You can check it out on YouTube or on Facebook. They did flash mobs where they suddenly perform in the airplane, and they do a whole marketing gig of going to Brazil. And it's cool. It says here, wir sind in Brasilien bekannter als in Deutschland. So they're really popular here. And a lot of people in the South who go to these Oktoberfests, they know this band, which is phenomenal. It's so far away from Europe. And then I actually found this while researching a bit about this. I found that there was an Austrian band and group going to perform at the Oktoberfest. And so I thought, wow, this is incredible. And here you can actually see a picture of the Oktoberfest in Itapiranga, how German it is, how much they really appreciate this German culture. So again, just want to highlight this might be a big potential for Austrian Schlager bands. Now, Fabiana, I think, and maybe Marcos are still going to go into the big festivals. Just want to quickly mention them. So you have Lollapalooza, the big franchise, international franchise, the enormous, one of the biggest festivals here in Brazil, bringing the top acts to the country. The same goes for Rock in Rio. So Rock in Rio, they have, it's obviously in Rio, as the name suggests. They bring also top performers, Foo Fighters, Red Hot Chili Peppers, etc., just to mention two, about 1 billion of them. And they also have a subsidiary of Rock in Rio in Lisbon. So that's they're really popular. Then you have the picture above. You will see it with the Indian face. It's Universo Paralelo. It's an electronic trance festival at the beach in the state of Bahia. I think it's really, I like it personally a lot. So if you're into electronic dance music, into techno and trance. So for example, the biggest performer there is the Israeli band Asterix. Just for you to get an idea of what kind of music plays there. It's several days at the beach, so you have the beach feeling, you have the tropical palm trees, etc. Super interesting. Then you have Villa Mix Festival, which is sertanejo music. Then you have the Virada Cultural, which is a sort of a city festival in Sao Paulo. Then obviously Carnival, which is not a classic music festival, but it's the biggest event in Brazil every year. And the Oktoberfest, as I mentioned. Okay, well, with having said all of this, I would like to introduce Fabiana Batistela. She's the director of the SIM Sao Paulo here in Sao Paulo. Fabiana, I would like to ask you to please turn on your camera. And before I give on to Fabiana, I'd like to invite everyone who's listening today to ask your questions, because at the end, I will ask our speakers and myself some of your questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to write them in the chat anytime. And Fabiana, the floor is yours.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon. Thanks, Jacob. Thanks for the invitation. Very happy to be here. So I'm the director of SIM Sao Paulo, which is the International Music Week of Sao Paulo. I'm going to give you a brief introduction of SIM Sao Paulo. Okay. So this is an event that reviews and debates new concepts and ideas which are transforming the music world market through panels and expositions of new trends. It means that we talk about new music, we talk about innovation, and we talk about new music movements, new arts trends, and things like that. We like to connect with everyone in the world to talk about what's going to happen in the future. And we treat music as an identity, as an industry, very powerful in Brazil, actually, and also as a tool of social transformation, which is very important here in Brazil. So this is a little bit about the event that happens every year in the end of the year. Last year we had to do it digitally, of course. It's the biggest music conference, the largest in Latin America, and it's part of the calendar of the showcase festivals of the planet. Okay, it's a meeting point for industry professionals, innovators, and artists. We have a lot of awards. Last year we were nominated for the Music Cities Award in this category. It was our first international nominee. And in 2019, just for you to give you a sense of how big it is in the country and in Latin America, we had about 3,500 delegates from 37 countries, and we have more than 40,000 people circulating in through the 47 venues that we work during the festival, because we have this 3 blocks of content. We have live music during the day, and at night we spread more than 400 acts in about 45-50 venues in Sao Paulo. Then we have the convention with a lot of panels, debates, and keynotes and workshops. And we have the networking and business part with many activities to join people and to motivate them to to create new partnerships and new business together. So we have the speed meetings, the meetups, the networking cocktails, which is a big success every here, the pitches, the community, and the expo hall. We have the Sing Award every year too, and much more. And then from since last year, sorry, I have a baby also, and he's going to sleep. Since last year we became a content and connection platform in the internet. We are going through some changes now, but we are going to relaunch it very soon. And everything it's in singsaopaulo.com that I'm gonna send to you after. So this is something just to give you an overview of the genres in Brazil through the decades. So we have the decades here, and we have here the social classes. So the blue one is the lower classes, the green is the middle classes, and this orange here is the high classes. So just to give you an idea of where the genres in Brazil comes from and who they reach, okay? So the Tropicalia and Bossa Nova that Jacob talked about, they were genres made by and for the high classes and middle classes in Brazil during that decades, okay? Especially Bossa Nova. Tropicalia was like a mix, a little bit more like a mix, because they also were very important during the fight that we have here against the dictatorship period in the 60s and the 70s, okay, until the 80s. Then I'm going to the next decade. So from 2000 on, we have the funk here, the gospel, and also the sertanejo as the top genres in everywhere: radio, Spotify, streaming, YouTube. That's what we call music for the mass, very popular music, and that's where the big money is in Brazil, okay? But we also have many other genres and music styles that comes from the outskirts, that come from every region in Brazil, and then can reach all kind of people. So what I used to say now, that Brazil is there is a market for you in Brazil in some places. So everyone can work their music in Brazil. It depends on what you want and what kind of content you do. If you have a good plan, you can do it. So here, just for you to have an example, the most popular artists in the first semester of 2020 in Spotify here in Brazil were sertanejo, pop, sertanejo, alok, eletrônica, some pagode, but it's mostly sertanejo and music for the mass and majors, okay? Here also, this is the videos in YouTube with more views. Sertanejo, forró, funk. This funk here is a very specific genre from Brazil. It comes from the outskirts and the favelas in Rio and the outskirts in Sao Paulo. It's not, there is nothing to do with the funk that we know around the world. It's a very Brazilian style with a lot of beat. It's a mix of the Miami beat with rap, and it's very unique and it's very popular here. And Latin America is the fastest growing market in the world, okay? Sorry guys, baby. So this is something for you to have an idea This is the global rank of the markets in Latin America, so we can compare Brazil with the other markets. Brazil is the 10th biggest music market in the world. Okay, and this is $1 million here, more than $300 million, and the growth rate here is 13% a year. And then you can compare with the population, and this is a very important number here. 150 million people use the internet here in Brazil. So we have still some room to grow, and most of them use it in the cell phone. Okay, here. Sorry, it's in Portuguese, but I can't translate. So 96 million, almost 97 million people here use the internet and the cell phone. So we have 50%, almost 50% of the population, right? 46% of the population using the internet and the mobile. So we still have a lot of places to go, a lot of room to grow internet here. This is the incoming, just for you to have an idea. So the incoming from streaming is almost the total of the incoming of music in Brazil. Then we have other formats here, like download, the physical, CDs and vinyl, which is very low nowadays, and some others. Okay, I told you before, we are the 10th here, and these are the top 10 biggest music markets in the world. And here we can see what kind of platforms people use to hear some music, to listen to music. So YouTube is the main one. And a lot of people in the world doesn't consider YouTube as a music platform, but it's the very popular here because it's free. Everyone can upload their music there. And music videos here are very, very important also because of it. Okay. Then we have streaming, like Spotify and all the platforms. Radio, 63%. And other thing, cable TV is 56, web radio 49, others. And in the other column here, we have the information about how people can find new information about music, how they can discover new artists here or new projects from the artists they like. Like YouTube is 85% again. So the importance of music videos here in Brazil. Facebook and Instagram, very, very important here. People, they use social networks really, really hard here, actually, and especially Instagram nowadays. Facebook is going down, Instagram is going up, and people use TikTok a lot, very much TikTok, and other kind of social networks to connect, like LinkedIn, and clubhousing now is very popular. What else? So you can see now the radio, the websites and portals, and then the press here, very low rates. So I would say that PR doesn't work really well in Brazil nowadays. What works is a really good social network campaign. Okay, so this is the fourth streaming platform, most popular streaming platform here in Brazil: Spotify, Deezer, Amazon Music, and YouTube Music. This is because also we have most of the cellular and smartphones users here in Brazil uses Android. We don't have much iPhone users here in Brazil because iPhone is really, really expensive. Just one moment. Okay. So iPhones are for very heavy users, internet heavy users, okay? Let's go. So this is a quick overview of the music rights collection here. It comes from 16% from concerts and events, which is not happening right now because of the pandemic. We have 12% comes from digital service, 9% from radio, 3% from soundtracks from the movies, and 37% from soundtracks and live music on television. And this is just a curiosity because we are a very digital country. People are in the internet like most part of the day. And this becomes a very great market for new devices like Android TV, Amazon Alexa, Google Assistant, and things like that. So this is new devices you can work on Brazil. Talking about where do the music come from here in Brazil. So this is a very interesting information, especially for emerging and new artists from everywhere. It says that 50% of the market here of the music that Spotify plays every day is from independent labels or independent artists. Okay, so most of the market here, the top 200 daily Spotify singles are from independent artists. Majors represent 46%. And then it shows here that most of the companies, the business, the industry, they are based in the Southeast, which is São Paulo, Rio, Minas Gerais, a little bit of Minas Gerais, but mainly São Paulo and Rio. The new platforms and the new companies, they are mainly in São Paulo, which is, you can see now the Northeast here, just 1% of the companies. But when it comes to the creative market, artists, new movements, and it's more about the Northeast of Brazil than the South, okay? Of course, São Paulo, we have a very strong creative community, because São Paulo is a mix of the whole country and the world. So we have this mix here. But the Northeast is very strong when you talk about creators, artists, okay? And this is very important to know because, as Jacob said, Brazil is like a mix of many nations, many countries. It's made by immigrants. But there is one part of the country that is that comes from the African people. And they are not considered immigrants because they came to Brazil because of the slavery. So they were forced to come to Brazil. And Black people here represent like 54% of the population. And I think our music is so diverse, not only the music, but the culture in Brazil is so diverse and so interesting because of the African influence. So they have big influence in the music. They have big influence in the food we eat in every region, religion, fashion, and many things. So I think it's very important to mention the Black influence, the African influence in Brazil, which is really huge, especially in the Northeast, okay? And then to finish my presentation, I would like to say that Brazil is like many countries inside one country. So every region has its specific characteristics and specific profile. And for you to come into Brazil, to enter Brazil, you just need to understand what's going on in everywhere, and you need to plan what you want, where you want to go, who you want to reach. If you are not a big artist from a major company that is going to launch your music here and invest a lot of money in you here in Brazil, then you are a new artist and emerging artist here in Brazil. So you have to have a good plan to meet the right people and to know what you want. Maybe it's not important to have like a big audience to get millions here, but just to have a fan base and to be able to work your music, to do tours, and to have like a market here, a new market here. So we have many festivals in Brazil. We have the majors one, the big ones, as Jacob said, but we have like a very big map of festivals here in Brazil. In 2018, we did a research, a survey in Sao Paulo, trying to map all the festivals, and we came to almost 2,000 festivals in the whole country. It includes every kind of festivals, every kind of genres, and every format. But if you want to talk about new festivals or festivals that work with new music and music from everywhere, you can reach almost 300 festivals all around the country. So it's a big market also. And in the central west, for instance, you have these main festivals here. Each one has a different profile from the other, but they all work with new artists from everywhere in the world. Okay, festivals here. This other column here is for new artists from this region. Then we have the north. North, we have a lot of influence from the native people from Brazil, the indigenous, and we also have many festivals there, including some technology and innovation festivals there. Then we have the Northeast that I talked about. Also, we have the power for the create community. The powerful create community of Brazil is in the Northeast. I consider that is in the Northeast. So we have many genres coming from the Northeast, like Tropicalia, Gil, Caetano, they are from Bahia, and new genres now in the last decades come from the Northeast, so they are very powerful in that. So that's why they have many festivals also. The south of Brazil is like they have many, they have more companies, more local festivals, but not it's not considered like the best region to go. And the southeast, it's where the companies are and where the business are, and we have many festivals here also, like Lollapalooza is a big one, Rock in Rio, but we also have some independent festivals which are really good, okay, and they work with international artists also from many genres. So here are some new, what I would say, some new trends, some new music movements that is coming, and it's becoming really strong here in Brazil. First of all, what is becoming really big here is the collaboration, is connection between regions, between genres, between artists. So if you want to work in some kind of region of Brazil, you need to connect with the right artists in these cities, in the states. And featuring also, feats are really big in Brazil nowadays. So it's a way of two artists to promote themselves to other audiences. Black music also, and music coming from the outskirts, from the favelas and from the poor areas around the cities. It's very strong here and very good music. So the industry, it's really strong around this kind of music, like funk, hip hop, and some other kinds of music like Tecnobrega in Pará and many others. Native people music, like the indigenous music, is also something that we are talking about a lot here in Brazil nowadays. And this is very new, actually, because sertanejo, this major genre in Brazil, it used to be very masculine, very sexist. And now we have this new trend of queer sertanejo that is like shaking all the industry in this sertanejo. It's like making a lot of necessary construction in this kind of genre. So just to finish here, some tips of how to enter Brazil. It's just a sum up of everything that I said. So you need to connect with some like-minded artists here. So you can do some feat, or you can do some exchange of information, exchange of tours, concerts. You need to connect also with a label, a local label, or an agency. It can be a booking agency, a PR agency, a management agency, or someone that really know about the market here in Brazil, know about the genre that you work, and can put you in the right places, in the right states, or in the right market here in Brazil, okay, in the right scene. You need to work hard on internet and social medias and in Brazil. So you have to push, promote your posts to Brazil. You have to do really good content in the networking, in the social networkings. You need to, if it's possible, to post something in Portuguese, but it's not necessary. You can post in English. But don't forget to work really well your networks, especially Instagram, okay? Make sure your music is available in all platforms, including YouTube. Pitch your music to platforms in Brazil. So make sure that your local label or distributor is talking to the platforms in Brazil, Spotify and Deezer and all of them, because they can get better exposure, or they can put your music in playlists that is going to reach more people here, okay? Then with all of this, you can create a fan base, a local fan base. Here you can develop, you need to develop like a direct connection with your followers here in Brazil. And this will make it possible for you to work on a community. Music here in Brazil nowadays is all about community. If you have this strong connection with your fan base, then it's more easier for you to have a career here. Try to book a tour in independent festivals. Don't aim Lollapalooza or Rock in Rio, because it's not going to happen unless you work with a major. Try to aim these independent festivals or some venues in Sao Paulo that book international artists. There were many of them. Like with the pandemic situation, we don't know what's going to happen, but hope all the venues survive, but I don't think it's going to happen. SESC is a non-profit organization that is very strong in the state of Sao Paulo, and they have many units and they support music. They have they have concerts every day, and they used to work with many international artists, every genre, except the popular music, except sertanejo or funk. They don't work really well. And also the public events, as Jacob said, like Virada Cultural, which is like a city festival on the streets, and they they buy a lot of artists from everywhere. Okay, but you need to get some, to enter the country, you need to get some support from your country. That's how many of new bands, new artists, emerging artists do from outside Brazil. Or you need to invest yourself in the first tour in Brazil, because it's very difficult to get some support here from independent festivals or venues. Sesc is the only one that pays better. But if you don't have a fan base here, if you don't have fans here that are going to buy the tickets, then don't expect to have all the costs covered and to get a fee in the first time. You need to invest to have a career here. So the first time you come here, you have to have a plan. Don't come only for the trip. It's an amazing trip. You're going to have a lot of fun. It's great. But if you have to invest money or to get from some support from your country to come here and invest in your career here, you need to have a plan. You need to connect with the labels, the agencies, or you need to know what you are doing, and you need to have a very good work on the social medias here in Brazil. So this way, I think we have many possibilities for any kind of artists, but you have to have a good plan to work in Brazil. Okay, thank you very much. So I'm going to, okay, now it's you, Marcos.
Hello, hi. Sorry for thank you, Fabiana. You have done a great job. And I don't have a camera right now. I do have it, but some with Mac, it's not working with this app. So let's go ahead. She gave a good overview of the numbers and everything. And so I'm gonna focus in some assets for the art from one independent artist or small artist to enter in Brazil. I am the manager for Milton de Holanda. He's an instrumental musicist who has played with Wynton Marsalis, David Matthews, John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin, Chick Corea, many others, and all the Brazilian major singers. Together, even if we are in the instrumental niche, we have been working 20 years together so far, and we have numbers that normally is not considered regular for our niche. We have like 613,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, which is enormous. We get numbers next to the top Brazilian artists, major labels and everything. We have been to all the labels, like from the Universal to, and I will give you some advice on that as well. We have 205,000 fans on Facebook, 131,000 fans on Instagram. We have 14 Latin Grammys nominations, several world tours. We won the Echo Jazz in Germany, Shock in France. Myself, I was nominated as Producer of the Year at Latin Grammy together with Despacito. And I have 2 Grammys as a composer. So the first thing I want to mention is that Fabiana has mentioned also, is to find your niche. You have to understand which kind of artist you are and what kind of public and area and genre you can focus on, so you can approach this huge market with huge varieties. You know, like with Hamilton, we discovered that we are multi-artists. We can be with samba, with jazz, with rock. We can play with David Matthews in the US, or John Paul Jones in London, or we can go to Wynton Marsalis in New York, or Zeca Pagodinho, or whoever, you know, like all these numbers. So it's uncomparable to put, like, let's say Beyonce on one side and Herbie Hancock on the other side. Of course, Herbie Hancock will be much smaller numbers because the niche that he are is that. But in that niche, he can provide his whatever he needs to survive and to have fun and everything like that. So I will try to be very briefly because we are a bit run of time, right? So one thing is the difference between Europe market and Brazilian market, especially on booking, is time plan. Like when I was talking to bookers in Europe, I'm talking about 2022. So here in Brazil, sometimes you can book a concert for the same month you are trying to book. So that's an advantage for whoever want to come to Brazil, because you can plan it. Of course, you have more time, more chances to succeed as you wish, but you can also plan in short time. Like, for example, you manage to get a trip to somewhere close to South America, and you can even find dates here. You know, like that's, I think, is a difference between the two countries, and is a asset that, you know, like, to understand that okay, the venues in Europe are for this year is already booked. Of course, this year is a strange year because of the COVID, but if you can think that you can come to South America and try some dates, you know, like. And another thing that's an advantage for European Austrian people is the money exchange. So one euro, let's say, is like almost 6.57 Brazilian money, you know. So if you want to promote, as Fabiana say, I don't trust. Also, of course, it's good to have a PR, but now it's all done digitally, you know, like to like Google Ads, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, Clubhouse, Twitch, Twitter, all of these platforms, you know, like you can promote yourself, you know, like, and focus in some areas, like Fabiana show you a map with a lot of things. You can say, I want to well, it's coming to SIM Sao Paulo, which is a great venue to enter in, to show up and start to know, make a relationship, business relationship in Brazil. And then there's also all the fairs, like Jazz Ahead, all the fairs you have around the world, you know, like there's always a Brazilian stand, you know, you can come there and start to meet people and say about your interests and exchange opportunities. So with this exchange rate, you can, with a short budget, have a big success, because instead of paying like $1 or €1 or whatever, you have 6 times more chances in the market, and you can downgrade to a city, to an area, so a producer can, like, watching a regular YouTube and see one of your videos, you know, like, and understand what you are doing. And videos is a great tool to succeed. Sometimes I saw people on the fairs coming with a CD and things like that. You don't expect people who are traveling to a foreign country come back with a bag full of CDs. So probably he will not have a chance to listen to your CDs. So something very short, briefly, that can tell your story, it will be a great asset for you, you know. So another thing that's I think is great, you know, like, and for me, is my suggestion for any artist is collabs, you know, like, remember that if you, it's always about business, is all about, like, what's good for me is good for you, you know, like, so if you somehow can bring Brazilian artists to your country to do a concert, to do a video, to do whatever, you have a great chance that this artist in Brazil, this company or whatever, will bring you back there, you know, like. So and nowadays a lot of things are being done digitally, you know, like, because with Zoom, with all of these gadgets that we have. So if you start with a collaboration, is the shortest way to find a gig here, because, you know, you have to understand, if you're not in a festival, if you try to book a room or something like that, if you don't find your niche and don't tell them that will happen, how people will know that you are there, you know, like, okay, I know a lot of Brazilian artists, American artists say, I went to that place, but there was no one in the concert. Like, there's even big names. I have been to big concerts, like from the instrumental world or jazz or everything. there was 5 people, you know, like, and the big act is here in Brazil, but people don't know. Nobody was not well promoted, you know. So you have to find these opportunities, you know, like, because we are in the time, especially with this COVID. I was talking to a friend and say, what do you think is going to happen, man, when everything come back? I say it's like in F1, you know, the Formula 1, the racing car. It's like a pit stop, like the car, safety car, enter on the race, and everybody has to calm down the speed. You know, everybody come closer together. So this time is the safety car on the race. You know, like, and so you have to think to respond to that. You know, so if you are start to build your social media, start to engage people and start to have a good promotional material, you know, like, so when the market come back, you can do a very smart start, you know, like, and be close to the big names, you know, like, that's what I'm doing now, you know, not now, but since the COVID stopped, you know. I think there's always opportunity when if you are in the balance, if one's going down, one's going up. So it's a matter of choice where we're going to be, you know, like, there's a guy say, if everybody's is crying, you know, it's better to sell handkerchief, you know, like, so there's always opportunity. And so let me see what else I want to so for me, you know, like, of course, it's great to have a label. It's great to have a booker in Brazil. It's necessary, you know, like, but sometimes you can't, you don't, you know. So I think you can manage, like, if 20 years ago we listened to people say, hey, instrumental music nobody likes or whatever, we're not gonna get 613,000 a month. Some months we have 800,000, you know, monthly listen on Spotify. So it's excuses, you know, for you to be lazy, you know, like, and I think you can find, if you are very focused, you know, like, with a social media ready to promote yourself, you know, like, to do the collabs, find the artists. First of everything, find your niche, find the artists that are in your niche and start to talk to them. Oh, great, you know, like, and you'll be surprised where this can take you, you know, like, and video is a great tool. And I also tell people, Brazilian artists who ask me how you can be coming every year many times to Europe, and I tell you, you can do the same parallel to Brazil, you know, how you can come to Brazil. You know, a house when have a cat, you can smell that house has a pet, because the cat pee is very strong. It's funny, but the cat pee is very strong, and you can smell that house have a pet. So imagine that you are the cat and you want to come back to Brazil. What you have to do to have your name, your face, your music, your work like the cat pee, you know, like, so people can remember that you are there, you know, like, because normally all these festivals that Fabiana mentioned, the promoter has his desires, this artist, that artist, but he see a possibility or a chance to bring that something different. He might like it, you know, like, so we say that the last show is the one who's remembering. So I support you to be like very focused. So I want to tell for the independent guys, you don't need to have a label, because you know that if you put your music on these platforms, you can choose when you put which countries that will be shown. Of course, that you're gonna enter in a huge bag, you know, like, with thousands and millions of artists and millions of songs and millions. So then is the next work, how you can make that thing notice, you know, like, how you can bring it up to the occasion, you know, like, so how you can stand up, you know. That's another thing that's in Brazil. The thing is, Brazil is a mix of cultures, you know, like, and people love different things and love to mix things, you know, like, from the electronic to the very roots, you know, like, so you can, the sky is the limit, you know, like you can try many things, you know, like, but and there's two paths, you know, like one is something that you want to explode and be like very well known, and the one that's that what he's doing is something that he wants to keep doing for many years. So be steady, you know, like keep to what you are is real for you, you know, like, and I think you're gonna succeed. Remember the Swedish, you know, like the Swedish is a really small country compared to Brazil, compared to America, compared to Australia, compared to Europe. So, but they export like ABBA, VC, The Hive, you know, like AHA, Roxette, you know, like they manage somehow to rule the world, you know, like. So if you are an artist and you, man, it's up to you. So do the time. I'm gonna stop now, but I really encourage you guys to show up in Brazil, follow this, a lot of things that Fabiana said, you know, like, and don't be lazy, use the assets in your favor. And back to you, Jake.
Thank you so much, Marcos. I really appreciate your input and your experience and sharing your personal experience with the market. And of course, unfortunately, you didn't have your video, but I think everything that you said really is a valuable point. And thank you also, Fabiana, for sharing your input, telling us a bit about SIM Sao Paulo, and also about giving a context of the Brazilian music market. So with that, I would like to invite everyone, all the speakers, to turn on their cameras and to share with us the stage here. So I actually do have a few questions, and I think please, every participant who's still out there, if you still have questions that you would like to ask, feel free to ask your questions, write it in the chat, and I will ask our amazing guest speakers here about their input. The first question that I actually have here is from a label, and I'm not sure exactly who it is for, the question, so I'm gonna ask either Marcos or Fabiana in this case. I am an Austrian label and I want to promote my music in the Brazilian radio stations and specific magazines. Do you have any advice for me? Fabiana or Marcos, does one of you want to take this specific comment?
I can tell you not to do that, actually. Because magazines, you're not going to reach a lot of people anymore. And radio station, well, it depends on what kind of music you work with, but as Jacob said, we have so many options here of radio station. And usually they work with music for the mass from majors. And there is something in Brazil that I don't think there is anywhere else in the world, that is called jabá. Jabá is like marketing money from majors that are from big big managing companies here, that they use to pay radios to play your music. So it's like not very I'm not very proud of this here in Brazil, and I think that's the only country in the world that does that. I'm not sure, but it's very terrible. So we have some major radio stations here that play like 40 musics every month, just 40, you know. So these 40 musics, they play over and over until they get into people's mind, people's head, and that's why they make a huge success. Of course, the music must be good for this kind of audience, but that's how radio stations work here. And if you go to the small radio stations that doesn't work with jabá, with this marketing money, they don't reach a lot of people. But you can still try to get these not commercial radio stations, some local radio stations, unfortunately, we don't have also the college radio stations, so they are not very strong here, like it's in US. But I would say that you should go with a social networking agents here in Brazil, better than magazines or radio stations. But of course, it depends on what genres do you work with. That I don't have this information, so my opinion is based only in your question.
Okay, thank you, Fabiana. My next question is actually for Tatiana and Franz. It's specifically, how does the Austrian Music Export help us in the Brazilian market, and do you already have specific projects planned in Brazil?
Well, we don't have any specific projects in Brazil planned yet, because we don't even know at what time we are able to go there again. But we would, of course, love to make a partnership and take a delegation of Austrian artists and companies there. We did this in a lot of other countries already. We usually work with a festival or a music trade fair to present some artists and get the right people talking to the right people. Of course, this is more difficult in a market that is so far away. But like a general support from our side could consist of a couple of different things. First of all, know-how and the network. So please come talk to us as soon as you are interested in a foreign market, so we can exchange our thoughts and strategies. And we do have financial support ranging from funding for individual showcases, tour funding, a new marketing fund that just opened up that you can actually still apply for until Monday next week. So there is a whole range of services we offer, not dependent on the market you want to go, but in general, international projects with Austrian artists.
Okay, thank you. So, Franz, sorry.
Just very shortly, I can add that we set up a call with Fabiana for this week to talk about the cooperation with Sao Paulo. So we are actively working on it.
Okay, so I guess anybody who has questions and specifically wants support, please contact Franz and Tatiana. I guess they're here to answer all of your questions in this case as well. I do have a specific questions from Marcos. Marcos, are you still here?
Yes.
Perfect. Marcos, the following question: what shows do you particularly recommend for foreign artists here in Brazil?
What shows is a very vague question. You know, like TV shows, live concerts. What's? I need to have more information to this concept. This question.
I don't have more, but I guess maybe live concerts.
So for Austrian, I think they have to shoot to the festivals. SESC is a good option that Fabiana told, because they like this different thing. But my suggestion is to have a collaboration before to come. Just if you have a long tradition, not tradition to be traditional, but you have a long book with a lot of things that you have done with your artists or with your music. So you can apply directly, but if you don't, it will be very rare if a festival or someone will hire you. You know, like you have to have a collaboration with some artist. Say, okay, me and a special guest. Okay, you have a special guest. I know him. I know he bring audience. So my suggestion is to first have a collaboration, or as me and Fabiana mentioned, be strong on the social media, because it's the way to go. You know. And then you can apply to Sao Paulo, but I don't know if Fabiana can tell if she accepts foreign artists outside of South America, and you know, and that's what I recommend. You know.
Can I add something? Yes. 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 In Sao Paulo, works with many countries. We have a partnership with many countries, so we every year we receive a lot of official mission from everywhere, and not only Latin America. We have a strong partnership, for instance, with Australia, UK, Portugal, Spain, France since the beginning, and many more. We have application every year for showcases, for official showcase. That usually we open that in June. We don't know about this year, so you need to follow our social networks to know more about that soon, because it's a complicated year in Brazil. We are in the second year of the pandemic here, quarantine, and we are not, we don't know if we can do presence physical events this year yet, because the vaccination here is very, very slow. So, but anyway, if we cannot do the physical event, we are going to do the digital event like last year, and we are going to have a call, an application for bands to apply. And then you can do the showcase. If you are selected, you can do the showcase. But if you're not selected, you can promote like Austria showcase during our collaborative program that usually we have during the night program when we have the presence event, but in this digital format, we call it collaborative program during the weekends of the event. And then we can show your showcase. You can put together a showcase with your label or with something official from the country, or any way you want to show your work. Okay, so we are going to promote everything in our social network, and as Fran said, we are going to talk about an official partnership, and then we can tell everyone in Austria about that soon, I hope.
Just to repeat two things that I said on my speech. One, Brazil, you can even find concerts last minute, you know, but it's not anyone who can find concerts, but you can, because we're not planned so much in advance, like the venues and things like that. With 2 months of advance, you can book a concert here. And another thing, the exchange money like is in your favor. So these two things are in your favor, you know. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, the exchange rate for anybody who's listening has, so the Brazilian currency has incredibly devaluated over the past year and a half. So so anything that's imported is extremely expensive for Brazilians, but anything from abroad is much cheaper for foreigners. So that's a very good point. And thank you both. My last question for Rianne, maybe you could explain for anybody who, for the Austrian labels, for the Austrian music professionals, if they have any support, how can the Außenwirtschaft Austria and maybe our offices, how can we help?
Mm-hmm. So first of all, we have this network of foreign offices in 70 countries. So we have 100 offices, and one of those is in Sao Paulo. That's where Jakob is sitting. And he is actually also the one who is responsible for anything related to music. So I think he is really easy and to approach and open for any question and any kind of support. And at our head office in Vienna, we can also support you by coaching you, connecting you to the right people. And we also have a funding program called Go International, which you can apply for when you are planning to expand to countries where you haven't been active yet, or where you are planning to build up a new network for new products or services. And our new program has just started. So that means we will have a program for the next 2 years with funding possibilities. This not only relates to Brazil, but to the whole world. And it not only refers to the music industry, but to all possible industries. The only 2 conditions are that you have to be a member of WKÖ. So that means that you have to have a company to be able to apply for it, and you have to be new to market in the country for which you are applying. which means that you are either not active in Brazil, in our case yet, or if you are planning to go there with a totally new offering. And for questions around this topic, you are warmly invited to contact me, and I will connect you to the right people. And as I have mentioned before, for anything related to the music business, we closely cooperate with Franz and Tatiana. So they have the real know-how when it comes to music business. And yeah, so we always collaborate very closely there.
That's very good. Thank you. So I think
Jacob, can I add one thing? It's very,
yes.
It's very for you to see how lucky you guys are. You know, like you have founding, you have someone who wants to help you guys. You know, I tell you, we went to the Womex and we performed at the showcase there, and after for 4 years in a row, we have concerts all over the Europe, even in Mauritius. You know, like we focus on that opportunity. You know, like, and in all those fairs, like we were the first Brazilian to play a jazz ahead, like when it was very small. You know, and all the major players are there on the fairs. You know, I saw people from the Lincoln Center, but they're not like with a budget here for you to find them, because they don't want to be fined. You know, like. But if you go every year, if you grab all the opportunities, they are there. You know, at one time it's gonna be your time to talk to them. Oh, can you have 2 minutes? And if you are ready with your material, with everything, you have the chance of your life. You know, maybe. So find yourself lucky. Don't be lazy. You have help here. You know, so use it. Okay, Jake.
That's really cool. I hope everybody will have this impulse now and this motivation and drive to be extremely active. Thank you, Marcos. We are now have to actually stop. We are way over time. I want to thank everyone. I hope I can speak for everyone that first of all, it was an extreme pleasure to talk to you all today. And please feel free to connect with us. You have our Austrian contacts here on the slide. So please, if you need any specific information, you can always contact Franz and Tatiana. You can also contact Rian in Vienna. Also connect with us on LinkedIn. I hope I speak for everyone here as well. We're all very active on LinkedIn, and you can always send us a message to connect, to network. I think for me, one of the main messages I got from all of you is that, and also from my personal experience, is that it's extremely important to network. Number one, in the music business, and number two, generally in Brazil. Brazil is a country of networking, and without that, you will not have too much success here in Brazil. So please get out of your comfort zone, and we look very much forward to any further questions that you have, any other support that we can give you. And I want to thank you all for listening, and also thank you to all our guest speakers today for participating and for taking your time. It's been a real pleasure. And I hope we can welcome you to a webinar in person or a personal event sometime soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Also from our side.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye.